Hello and welcome to this general introduction to 4 plays by Terence that we're looking at in 4 separate videos, but the introduction to those videos is going to be exactly the same, and in a moment there will be an awkward crossover to where the bit we read of the plays. These are all just the openings of plays. We're just going to test the waters, because the problem with the Terence translations that we're looking at, in theory they're all translated by Richard Bernard, or Bernard, I don't know, it's a surname, I go for Bernard. They're all published in 1598, and we did one recently and it was rubbish, and so we want to know whether A, he's the author of the translation, and which case it's rubbish, or if he's just stolen somebody else's, in which case it might turn out to be quite good. If the text turns out to be quite good, we will read the rest of the play at some point in the future. If it turns out to be rubbish, we will say we've done due diligence, this isn't an actionable play, and we won't attempt to action it. So we have reading in the room. We have Alan, we have Aliki, we have Eric, we have Lynn, and now awkward jump cut as we go to, which is The Brothers, or Adelphos, by Terence, translated by Richard Bernard. And yes, once again, we're asking the question, is this an actable text, or is this just a sort of slightly awkward translation for students following along with the Latin at home? To answer this question, and to just put everyone through the pain and misery of the lots of exposition and lots of very, very long speeches, I'm scrolling down now. Oh God, you hate me. You hate. People are switching their videos off to get away from this one. I think Aliki, you've drawn the short straw. Oh no, Alan didn't speak last time, did he? So yeah, Alan, you're drawing the short straw. So for Act 1, Scene 1 of Adelphos by Terence, we have Mitio, the old man.
Oh, Storax, came not Asinius this night back again from supper, nor any of my servants which went to meet him? Indeed, this is true that men say, if a man should be away in any place, or should linger anywhere, it is better that those evils happen him which his wife speaketh against him, and which through anger she imagineth in her mind, rather than those evils which loving and tender parents will think of. If thou loiter or stay in any place, or thy wife thinks that thou lovest somebody beside her, or that thou sitst tippling in the alehouse, or else takes thy pleasure, and thou alone to be at thy heart's ease, when she is in evil case. Oh, but what things do I muse on, because my son is not returned home again, and with what things now is my head troubled? I fear lest he should be frozen with cold, or fallen suddenly at unawares into some pit, and have broken some member of him. Ah, is it possible that any man can imagine in his mind, or find what may be dearer than he is to himself? And yet, for all that he is none of mine, but my brother's son, he is far otherwise given than I am. For since I was a little one, I have lived this quiet life of a citizen, and at mine own ease, and I was never married, which those that are of a contrary opinion to me account as a very blessed thing. My brother, he is as far on the other side in every point, and takes pleasure in all these things, to live in the country, to keep himself always sparingly and hardly. He hath a wife, he hath 2 sons born him, of the which I have made this eldest of them my adopted son. I have brought him up of a child. I esteemed him and loved him as my own. I took pleasure in him, and he is my only joy. On the other side, I labour earnestly in like manner, that he may take me for his father. I allow him money in his purse for his expenses, and wink at some faults. Neither is the need that I should do all things as I may. Last of all, I have used my son to this, that he should not keep me from those things which youth desire, and which others do without the knowledge of their parents. For he that either hath accustomed himself, or will be so bold as to lie and deceive his father, so much more bolder will he be to deceive others. In my mind, it is better to hold in children by the love of virtue and good education, rather than through fear. My brother and I cannot agree in these points, neither can he away with them. He often cometh to me with an outcry, saying, "What mean you, Matteo? Why do you spoil the young man? Will be ashamed to us both. How chances it that he is in love? Wherefore sits he quaffing and bibbing in the tavern? Why allow you him expenses in these things? You let him be too brave in apparel. You are too fond in these matters, and I say he is too rigorous, contrary to all right and reason, and he is far deceived truly in my opinion, who deemeth that rule and government to be of more authority and stronger, which is maintained by force, than that which is gotten by friendship. This is my reason, and thus I think in my mind. He that doth his duty compelled by fear, so long he will take heed, while he supposeth that that which he doth shall be brought into examination, and come under quorum. If he hope that no man shall know of it, he turneth to his old nature and bias again. But he, whom thou makest thy friend by doing him a pleasure, willingly doth that is commanded him, and desireth to do the like again. Present or absent, he is all one. The duty of a father is this, rather to accustom his son to do well voluntarily than through the fear of another. For in this thing a father and a master differ one from the other, and he that wots not this, let him confess that he knoweth not how to govern and bear rule over his children. But is this not he himself of whom I speak? Yea, it is he indeed. Methinks he is sad, but I know not why. I believe, as his custom is, he would chide me even now. Oh, Demea, my brother, I'm glad you have come hither in safety.
Act 1, Scene 2, Enter Demea, read by Aliki to Mitio.
Oh, very well met. It is even you I look for.
Are you sad?
You ask why I'm sad. Where is our Eschinus?
Told I you not it would thus fall out? What hath he done?
What hath he done, say you, who is past all shame? Neither feareth he any man, and think himself to be lawless. For I will say nothing of matters past heretofore. Oh, what a new prank hath he committed of late.
What's that?
He hath burst open the doors, and hath by force gotten into another man's house. He hath beaten the good man of the house, and all his family, and almost killed them. He hath violently taken away the woman he loved. All the city crieth out that it is a most shameful part that he hath played. Oh, Mitio, I cannot tell how many told me of this coming hither. It is in every man's mouth. All the world talketh of it. If it be meet to use example, he seeth not his brother give himself to wanton love. He seeth him play the good husband in the country, to be sparing and of a moderate diet. He seeth no such like thing done as this. Oh, brother Mitio, when I tell him of these, I tell you also, you suffer him to be naught.
Never was there since the world stood anything more unreasonable than a fellow that knoweth nothing, who thinketh not anything well, but that he himself doth.
To what end and purpose is this?
Because you, Demea, mistake these things. It's no heinous offence, believe me, for a young man to hunt harlots, to top off a can roundly. It's no great fault to break open doors. Neither you nor I did these things. It was that poverty suffered us not to do so. Now you count that for your commendation, which then need made you to do. There's no equity in this, for if we had been where we withal, we would have done no less. And you, if you were a wise man, would permit that your son at home should do now, as Asinius does, whilst he is in his young blood, rather than after your death, which he hath long looked for, and so, notwithstanding, might do it afterwards, at a more inconvenient time.
Oh, Jupiter, man, thou makest me mad. Is it not a heinous act for a young man to do these things?
Psst! Hear you me. Trouble not my head so much with these things. You gave me your son to be adopted mine, and by adoption he is made mine. Therefore, brother Demir, if he offend, it is against me. I shall bear the greatest loss there, where he shall do amiss. He makes banquets, he's often in the tavern, he's full of his perfumes at my costs and charges. Is he in love with any? I will give him money when it likes me. If he be where he shall have no money, he shall possibly be sent packing. Complain you that he hath broken any man's doors? They shall be repaired. Hath he rent any man's clothes? They shall be amended. I have, God be thanks, whereof to do these, and as yet they be not grievous to me. Lastly, this I will say, either cease to trouble me, or appoint what arbiter you think good, and I will plainly show that you are more faulty in this matter than I am.
Oh, woe is me. I pray you learn of others who know well what it is to be a father.
You are his natural father. I am in advising him.
I'll give you him any good advice.
If you hold on thus, I will go hence.
Serve you me so?
Should I so often hear one thing?
I have a care over him.
And so have I. But brother Demir, let either of us see to his own. Take you care for the one, and I will take care for the other. For to lock to them both is in a manner as much to ask him again, whom you have given me.
Oh, Mitio.
I think so.
But why am I against this? If it be your mind, let him make havoc and bring all away. Let him come to naught. It's nothing to me. If then I speak word hereafter.
Are you angry yet again, Demir?
Believe you me not, it is a grief to me. I am no Scot or Jew to my son. If I be troublesome to you, lo, I let you alone. Your mind is that I should take care for one. I look to him and I praise God for as much as he is, so as I wish him to be. This, your son himself shall feel it hereafter. I would say no worse against.
Something is true, he saith, yet not all these. Nevertheless, these are some grief to me, but I will not let him know that I took him impatiently, for he is such a man, when I desire to please him, that I am most against him, and so I drive him from his purpose. Yet he scarcely takes it meekly, as a man ought to do. But if I should increase his rage, and say, as he saith, in good sooth, I should be as mad as he, though Aeschines do us some injury in this thing. What queen in all the city hath this youth not been entangled with? Or who is there that hath not fared better by him? In the end now, of late, I believe he was then wary of them. He said that he would fain marry. I hoped then that his youthful courage had abated. I was full glad of it. And lo, what I hear of afresh. But whatsoe'er it is, I would willingly know, and fain would talk with the fella, if he be in the street or marketplace.
And there we come to the end of Act 1 and our little session. Okay, there's a couple of interesting things about this one, because there's a sort of exterior reason to want to look at this play more, as well as what this text is doing. One of which is the theme here of, how does one bring up children, is something that very engages the Tudor mind. It turns up a lot from the sort of middle of the 16th century onwards, and so this gets echoed in a lot of other plays, before this was translated, but also onwards. So this is a play where doing something with this play is more important than some of the other plays Terence's we've read in translation, some of which have just gone, well, the plot's horrible, I don't really want to do this, Terence. But also the translations is bobbins. So this is a slightly different one. I'm interested in returning to this play, not necessarily this translation. We'll make a decision about this translation as we go. Thoughts from the room, Lynn and then Aliki.
Well, yeah, the best way to raise children is something we're still very intensely interested in. I mean, I don't know how true that is in the UK, but everybody who's not a parent is a parenting expert here in the US. There's just a lot of popular discourse about this. Is corporal punishment effective? In what window? To what degree? Is punishment-based discipline effective, or is reward-based discipline better? How do you balance those? I mean, we're really, really interested in this still, how to be a good parent. I think it's partly because we're all very much a product of our own childhoods, and and nobody wants to say, yeah, I love my parents, but they did a real crap job raising me. so um so yeah, we can't seem to stop talking about what does it mean to be a good parent, what does it mean to be an effective parent. So yeah, it's very topical.
Yes, because I see in the chat there was some approval of the parenting philosophy being displayed here. Aliki.
These two guys are coming across to me really vividly in this interaction, and I think that's worth pursuing. There's something, I mean, the text is a trifle awkward, but for example, this exchange, I pray you learn of others who know well what it is to be a father, with its snootiness, and then, oh no, come on, the conciliatory, you're his real father, but I've brought him up. Oh, did you bring him up well? It's really kind of quite vivid, and there's a characterization there that I find engaging. And I don't know if that's in spite of the translation or because of it, but I could be talked into pursuing this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's still got the same sort of Bernard awkwardness to it. Yeah. It's not quite landing. It's got odd, I assume, additional modern. I mean, I can't believe Terence was "I am no Scot or due to my son." I mean, what?
Yeah, what was that?
What is that? What is that trying to be an equivalent to in the original? I'm curious. I don't know. And what is it doing there? What business of work is it doing? Yeah, because nasty bit of othering being thrown in there. Aliki.
Can we find the Latin? Because I would really be curious to see what it says. That even I, with my no Latin, should be able to work out what line that is.
Not to hand, but we do have it somewhere. Yes, because we do have all the PDF materials of the original text somewhere in the archive. So yeah.
I mean, the Scottish reputation is for penny pinching, so I imagine that's what that is about. I'm not giving. I'll give him a proper allowance.
Yes, that seems to be logical there. So yeah, so how are we feeling? It's just narrowing down to, despite the less the Terence side of things, more the Bernard side of things. How are we feeling about this translation? It seemed okay, but awkward. Is this another sort of middle ground one? It's not a definite no. Anyone feeling a definite no on this one? Like it's just can't work with it. It does seem that he's only done one really, really terrible one, and then they get worse or they get better in his translation style. So everyone's sort of in a sort of middling zone. Is that sort of? Feel free to. Does anyone love it? Is anyone in love with it? No, I didn't think so.
I'm interested in it, but that's as far as I'll go.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, as this is the final one of our Terences from this particular edition, so we've looked now at all 6 plays over the sequence in this Terence in England in English, 5 by Richard Bernard and 1 by Kiffin. One of which is a definite yes, and pretty much everything else is maybe or no. Any thoughts just generally about Terence or any of these that we've been doing? I mean, the literalness of it all, they're awkward. They don't age well in 2 ways. They don't age well as classical texts. They don't age awfully well sometimes as early modern texts. Yeah. Any sort of final thoughts about this sequence? Eric, you were waving.
Well, I think it was one of the letters to not letters to the reader, but it was kind of like the intro to this, because I was one of the editors on the sort of one vaguely at the beginning of this text, and I seem to remember there was a whole thing about how Terence claimed everything to be his own work and that kind of thing, but every single play, it feels very formulaic. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
It is formula. Yeah, I mean, he is by this point comedy. The new comedy, as it is known, is all about formula. You know, it's about all the cliches that we now have in situation comedy all the way. It's not doing what the old comedy did, which is focus on personalities and satire and real people. This is all about generic types, archetypes, stereotypes, etc. And yes, I love the way he's sort of going. It was all my own work, feeding off. It's definitely not by Menander. No, definitely. Lynn.
Yeah, and another thing that definitely limits the appeal of Plautus for me, it's a little yang. In the Tudor period, the Elizabethan, the Tudor Stuart period, when the iterations of the new comedy, and also later tragedy and so forth, you kind of get to see the world from a female character's point of view once in a while. It matters what the ingenue wants. In Elizabethan iterations of new comedy, that the girl gets to be a character, and she's not even an onstage character in Terence. Often it's like, does the young man get what he wants? So I mean, just the absence of interesting female characters is a downside for me. It's something that makes me less interested in seeing these on their feet.
Yes, is this problem that the female characters, certainly the young female characters, are almost always off stage screaming while giving birth. The only female characters we meet on stage tend to be the older. The older women, maybe not even for very long then. So that's the convention, even more so then than it was in the early modern. Of course, there's no guarantee in an early modern text you're going to get particularly good female characters, but at least there is a greater chance statistically. Any other thoughts?
There's certainly no Roaring Girl or Duchess of Malfi,
No. No. Any other thoughts before I close all of the sessions? Alan?
Yeah, I think this one has possibly got the most potential as a plot line if we can find a better translation thereof. I've just been looking back at the Latin, and I've realised that it's actually not as literal as we might have thought it is, because on a quick skim through, there's references to Jupiter and so on, which do not come through in the translation that we've got. So
no, there is a constant shifting to early modern gods and also monetary values as well. So yeah, it's interesting choice. Is it trying to keep with some of the phrasing but changing the details? So all sorts of interesting questions there. Any other thoughts? Because I close. Aliki.
No, I was just going to say, you want the young to learn Latin, but you don't want them to learn polytheism, for heaven's sake. Heretical.
Yes.
God forsake. God help. No, nothing to do with the morality of the Greek pantheon.
So this closes with a non-generic closing for the final video in this sequence of Terence Plays as translated in Terence in English. We may or may not return to some of the ones that we've looked at. Some of them are a definite no, some of them are sort of and some of them are yays. So all that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading of Terence in English. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.